I notice with things, people do what they're interested in. And sometimes we're just lucky that we just happen to have an interest in finance.
Yes.
And that interest allows us to actually go deeper into the subject versus for them, they just want to do it for the one reason only, for money, not interest.
Yes.
They don't have interest in it, so they're doing it just for the money only, which is not enough.
No. Like Steve Jobs said, you know, when it comes to this, if to get success, if you don't really love it, if you don't really want it, if you don't really love it, because it's so hard, you're just going to give up. I mean, you have to really love it, like everything about it. The hard, the dreadful, hard days and hard times. If you don't really love it, you'll give up. All right, Raw Wilkes. This is another episode of AR Media Institute podcast. I'm Mr. Rembrandt, your Raw Wilkes, and we'll go ahead and get into it. For all the listeners, you can listen on all major podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and many other platforms. You just Google AR Media Institute and it'll pop up. Also, you can watch the podcast on AR Media Institute YouTube channel. The episodes will be there, especially clips will also be on there. And for exclusive episodes, not available on the free podcast platforms, you can go over to patreon.com/AR Media Institute and get exclusive and bonus episodes there. Also ad-free episodes there. Any episodes downloaded on the free podcast platforms may or may not have ads, because we need your support for viewers to keep this going, and to continue on and have better quality and more opportunities for the future. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So so you remember we were talking about earlier how you had one guy who you know who's in a high position in a government job, and he was telling you you know, how are you getting properties, man? You know what I'm saying? I can't afford that 20% down. You know, and then you were telling them that, listen, man, it's not with you, especially with you, it's not a financial problem, it's a strategy problem. But he just can't fathom that basically going about acquiring real estate assets like how you've done. He can't fathom it, or conceptualize it because of the cost it is to achieve it, but he doesn't understand that you've achieved those feats not by having tremendously high amounts of money, but just by having excellent and competent strategy. But he just can't fathom. To him, it's all about the money. Has
Absolutely.
Nothing to do with the intelligence or the finance aspect about it. But yeah, so if you just want to go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, no question. So yeah, we had a conversation where, you know, he brought up real estate and was saying that, you know, if it was only easy for me to get involved, but I don't know how to get involved because the area I want to buy in, which is a bad area for rental income. It was a higher suburban area. And he says the property I would want to have as a rental is in a suburban area where the prices are high, but the rents are low for that price to rent ratio. And the areas where you get the most cash flow are in the areas that I guess in some people consider, it's all based on your perspective, where there's a higher crime rate, whatever the case may be. And some people like to avoid that. So based on that scenario, him not wanting to invest where he should invest, where the cash flow is high, period, and the tenants are still paying, regardless of the demographic, when it comes down to lower income, he wants to stay away from that. So in his mind, it's like, well, what I would want to buy, I'm going to have $70,000, $80,000 down payments. And I'm not going to be able to save that up in a timely manner and be able to get rental property. So I don't even know how I would get in it, and that's why I always say real estate's only for the wealthy. And of course, I'm sitting there and I'm like, back to your point, that's why I say you don't have a money issue, you have a strategy issue, because there's millions of ways you can actually get into any real estate deal because there's so many layers to it.
Right.
And I said, because your lack of knowledge, you only see one way, which is the traditional way. Yeah. The traditional way is go to a bank. The bank says you can only loan to value 80% to 75%. So you got to put 20 to 25% down. And then after that, you're going to have to fund out of your own pocket all the rehab money or whatever repairs or maintenance you're going to have to do.
Right.
And because that's so simplistic and that's all he's known, that's exactly what he thinks he has to do.
Yeah.
So he just sees this large money in front of him when I'm trying to tell him that I did a deal and I never came out of pocket. Right. And I never really broke down how I did that because I think it was pointless to do that because I didn't even understood it anyway.
Right.
But I was like so I started breaking down about, getting, a hard money lender and, using that to get the property, acquire it, and then maybe on the back end, refinance it with a traditional loan. And I said, right there's already two pieces right there. And there's probably a third piece that if you ever had it in a system, you'll be able to get in and get out. But you don't know your entry. I say you don't know your cash. You don't know what the cap rate is. You don't know what an ROI is. You don't know how to basically decide if the property is profitable or not. You don't understand what the comps are in the area, what the rent ratios are in the area. I said there's just too much information for you to just think that you just put a down payment and just buy a rental. You don't understand if you want to be a property manager or do you outsource it. You don't understand, there's just too many things for him to just tell me like, oh, it's just, for me, I'm going to have to put 30% down. I was like, no, there's too much. There's a lot going on. You don't read the books. You don't sit down and materialize this to understand it forward and backwards.
Right.
I said, that's why you're limited to what you're saying to me now. You're limited to this area of investing because you don't want to learn, or maybe you do want to learn, but your actions don't show that.
Right. And
your level of knowledge shows me that you actually don't care to know.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation about that, and it really went nowhere anyway because people like to talk about things, but people don't like to do things.
Yes. And it's, see, because it makes me think like, well, what has he told himself or what has he convinced himself of that makes him believe that the way to go about real estate is the way that he thinks you should go about it, and that's the only way? Like, at what point do you say, I'm not a property manager, I'm not even a real estate agent, I'm not a real estate broker, I'm not a real estate investor, I'm none of these things. I would like to get into real estate investing. So the way that I believe you should go about real estate is a way that I can't achieve, which is putting 60, 70, 80,000 down for the properties that I want to get. What is another way I can go about this? Let me find out. Let me get the research. Let me just get a couple of books. You could read a book slowly in a week, depending on the book. You could read a book slowly in a month if you wanted to. Right. So why don't I just get a couple of books and just slowly intrigue my curiosity slowly if I'm really serious.
Right. He's not serious.
And really not even to be completely serious, to be moderately serious. Because when I started 2013 being interested in stock investing, I just got curious at first. I said, at this point, I have lots of time. I need to learn something that's going to be beneficial to me. Let me just learn about this first to see what I could learn. So with that said, I said, well, who is a great person in this field? I said, well, I remember years ago, this guy named Warren Buffett who gave away half of his net worth. And my grandmother was saying, oh, yeah, look at this guy, Warren Buffett. He gave away half his net worth to charity. What a good man. And I was like, okay, well, let me just see what's going on with Warren Buffett. That's all. The rest is history. The rest is history. So you've done zero. The conclusion that I've made, which is probably a very, very accurate conclusion, you have done zero investigation to get you to a point where you're competent enough to even start. All you're saying is you're coming up with this frivolous idea of how you think real estate is done and saying, well, I can't do it that way, so just forget about it. I can't take you serious.
Absolutely. I agree.
You're serious. You might be serious, but in a lazy, unenthused way that is unintelligent. And that is and you might be incredibly interested in real estate in that manner. And if you are interested in real estate in that manner, then you're not interested.
Yeah, because if he did have curiosity, he would start learning that there's money everywhere when it comes to real estate. Like, you don't even have to have any credit. You don't have to have any, essentially, no cash. And you could just have all the information, and you just get the people that have all the money but no time. Then you have the people with all the time with no money. And then you're like the middleman. So it's like, obviously, to simplify that, it's like, you can syndicate a deal. But if you read enough books, you can easily syndicate a deal where you're the quarterback. Yeah. You're the quarterback. You're the point guard. You know what I'm saying? You're the captain. You're just facilitating the deal. And you might not even have to have any like stake in the deal, but you're the guy that just facilitates it, and you can still get paid for what you know. Yeah. And that's what I mean, like, for the book. That's what I mean, like, reading the book. Sometimes you don't even have to have the money. And then this individual has good credit. So essentially he has a business too, because he has a side hustle. He does have a side business that does pretty well, that makes a decent supplement income to his job. So he could get business credit, and he could get other funds of money that he would have knew if he just had curiosity to read. Yeah. He would realize that he could get access to monies that others people can't, and then in turn use that money to fund what he would like to, generate some form of wealth through real estate. He has all the tools because he's already has the discipline to work a side job and get dedicated to that year in and year out. But you're not willing to actually read or at least look into it or do a case study on how real estate works fundamentally, just from a fundamental standpoint. Because you don't need to get into all the exotics. You just need to read a book about, buying rentals, the beginning stages of buying rentals. Yes. And just understand. People like to get into these advanced exotic theories and ways of doing real estate and wholesaling and flipping notes and foreclosures, Oreos, and all these things and things that are pretty cool to talk about. And yet you don't know the basics of just how to calculate what's a good deal versus a bad deal. Yeah. What makes a deal good, what makes a deal bad, and just start from there and then go through your process. Right. And then be able to calculate, well, what would you buy this for? Based on what I know, what would be a good price to buy this deal for me to make money? Because people lose money at the beginning, which is you make or lose money in when you buy it. This is basic fundamental knowledge that your real estate transaction is when you buy. Right. If you buy too high, you buy too high, you're done. You want to be able to buy in a point where there's enough ability for you to leverage if things go bad. Yes. He doesn't know that. He would just buy it at market value. Because again, he wouldn't know that doesn't know any different. When you buy an investment, it cannot be at market value. This is not a retail. Right. This is not retail. It has to be bought under market value. And again, you talk to it, but it doesn't internalize because I notice with things, people do what they're interested in. And sometimes we're just lucky that we just happen to have an interest in finance.
Yes.
And that interest allows us to actually go deeper into the subject versus for them, they just want to do it for the one reason only, for money,
Yes.
not interest.
Yes.
They don't have interest in it, so they're doing it just for the money only, which
Right.
is not enough.
No, it's
Get
not
the
enough.
information you actually have to dig in deep and actually have some form of like, this is fun.
Yes.
This is not about
Yes.
just money.
No.
I realized that, and I found out we're lucky to have that interest or that natural interest without actually being forced.
Yes.
For me to start real estate with him, I'm forcing it down his throat. Oh, I would be forcing it.
Yes.
And his results would be bad.
Right.
I guarantee right now he would have bad results.
Yeah.
If he went into real estate with the mindset that he has.
Yes.
He would be one of those people that be on here. You don't want typing on a blog or something. Yeah, you don't want to buy real estate. Real estate is a scam.
Yeah. That would be
Because he would basically do a couple deals and lose money and say, yeah, I saved up all this money and lost it all. Yeah, real estate's a scam.
Yeah, that would be him. Yeah, I mean, because
You know, just to say it, Frank.
It's gotta be you like Steve Jobs said. You know, when it comes to this, if to get success, if you don't really love it, if you don't really want it, if you don't really love it, because it's so hard, you're just gonna give up. I mean, you have to really love it, like everything about it, the hard, the dreadful, hard days and hard times. If you don't really love it, you'll give up. And that's why I always have a problem, like what I have with my cousin or my cousin, for example, or like Ananda, for example, where they always say, yeah, blah 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 blah. You know, when I get that $1 million in the future, when I get the $1 million, and it's like, you keep putting a price on it, that means you're going after money. For us, it's not the money, it is the enjoyment of creating something from nothing, becoming the person that you have to become in order to reach the goal that you have to that you're trying to get to. So the goal might be small incremental goals that lead to big goals, and a result might be money, but that is not the goal. And me and you, when we do things, it's never like, oh man, I just made another 20, 30, 40, 50K, you know, I just made another 10, 15. It's never that. It's like, hey man, I closed the deal. I finished the deal. Oh, let's go, money. Hey man, I just finished this. I just finished that. Oh, let's go, money. Oh, we're on to the next. Oh, next year once I finish this, then blah, we're coming into the next year. The next year we're going to do this. Even now, this year is about to end. We're talking about what we're going to do next year. It's never like, oh, once we get to a certain amount of dollars. That is never, ever the discussion. Never the discussion. So for them, that's why I always told them I had a problem with that, because money, your goal is money. And if money is your goal, you will never get there. Money cannot be your goal. You have to love this thing, whatever that is that you're going to love. Right. And if you don't love that, you'll never get there. It was said by Jim Rohn, one of my favorite motivational speakers, and he had a quote that he heard from another individual who was a mentor for him, who told him that what you have is nowhere near as important as what you do with what you have. Right. And that's the quote. Because at the end of the day, what you do with what you have will be a representation of your intelligence, your capabilities, and your character as an individual. And some people might say, oh, well, I don't have enough to do anything with what I have. Well, again, what you do with what you have is a representation of your intelligence, your capabilities, and your character as an individual. So if you're not able to do a lot with what you have, you need to increase your intelligence, you need to increase your character, you need to increase your capabilities. So as a person's chasing money, they'll never get there. And that's why these two people who we're talking about are having so much problems reaching their goals, reaching their success, is because they're going after the dollar sign. So when you're going after the dollar sign, you're looking for shortcuts. You're not looking for the process, as Eric Thomas says. You're just looking to score. And if you're looking to score and you're not trying to get in the gym practicing 1,000,000 or 1,000 shots like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, for example, shooting 1,000 shots before the game and after the game, you will, when it comes time for the game, you're not going to be the leading scorer. You're not going to be the dominant person. You know why? Because you're looking to put yourself in a situation where somehow you can just get it by osmosis. Like Ananda said, oh, I don't actually want to learn it. I just want to build relationships that help me to get there to learn it. You'll never get there. That's like being on the court and saying, I don't actually want to become a better basketball player myself. I just want to get all the basketball players around me who will help me get to the championship. I don't actually want to be the person who leads us into the championship. You won't get there.
It's like a person to just back to like what you were saying about the two individuals. It's like you see the end product. He sees the end product because he knows I own multiple investment properties. So you see the end product.
Yeah.
But you don't see the fact that there's a lot of hours behind the scene of me, basically.
Yeah. You see me cross the finish line.
At the end product, but you don't know the fact that I'm trying to harness my skills, and basically get my skills down to the nitty gritty,
right.
And reading every day and basically fine tuning. I'm fine tuning my process every day.
Right.
Where you see in product, but yet you're like, oh, damn, right? Red's got real estate. He owns a bunch of multiple units. Oh, maybe now I'm interested now because if he could do it, I could do it. Because you see me at work joking around, being, chilling that, but you don't see the other side of me behind the scenes in the book, not talking to nobody in isolation for hours.
Right.
Several hours, day in, day out, week in, week out. And over a couple of years, getting the information I need to do. So again, back to you were saying about the process. You just like you say, you want to score. You don't want to do and I know they don't want to do the process because it takes grit.
Yes.
It actually takes boring.
Yes.
The process is boring. Just to put on the record, it is boring.
Yeah.
For the most part, it is boring to sit there and read very non-fiction books.
Yes.
All day long, non-fiction. Because all of this is reality stuff. It's nothing fun. There's no joking in the book.
No, it's not.
There's nothing that's joking.
No.
There's no entertainment in the book. It's just fundamental, not boring. I mean, it's impactful because obviously it changes your reality, but just straight to the point information that's basically going to be able to get you to A to B.
Yes.
Straight point, no fluff. And if you're able to execute that and put it into reality, because that's another thing, knowledge is not power in itself. We've talked about this. Knowledge is power only when it's executed.
Right.
You have to execute it. So obviously reading it is not enough. And obviously we talked about this nonfiction in general. Most people never get past the first chapter in a nonfiction book. Something that I'm glad that I don't have that issue because, again, back to my point, it's just not fun.
Right.
Nonfiction and reading and studying is boring for most people.
Right.
That's why most people are not landlords. They're renters.
Right.
Or homeowners, but not landlords. Yeah. Landlords is another level to the game.
Yes.
Landlord and being a property owner or an investor in general. We could just say investor because really, if you're an investor in real estate, you can invest in stocks. It's the same. You can, if you have the discipline, because it's all discipline.
Right.
It's all discipline behaviors. You have to have financial discipline, which they don't. Can't even save up for other minor tasks. How are you going to have discipline to save up and be able to do maintenance, repairs, property management, and all the things that come with funding or financing or maintaining a property, right. And the capital expenditures that come with the upkeep of a rental.
Absolutely.
It's just a lot. It's a lot going on. Easy for us because of the fact that we have the process and we have the knowledge base. But if you don't have the knowledge base, I couldn't imagine getting into the game, just slapping a down payment and just saying, now I'm a landlord.
Right.
I could never see myself doing that because you would be overwhelmed.
Yes.
The fact that we have that knowledge, it's almost like, well, I'm overwhelmed, but I know what my next move is though, to combat this.
Right.
Well, I know what I have to do to fix this. Because I got some war stories. I mean, yeah, I tell my person I work with, I got war stories. And you might not want to hear them because it might discourage you. But at the end of the day, they say, like Biggie said, the quote, the rest in peace to Biggie Small, more money, more problems. Period. I know it's a rap song, but at the end of the day, they had a lot of validity to that. More money comes with more problems. Yeah. If you don't have more problems to solve, you're not going to create any more income.
No.
You actually should be looking forward to problems, because that means business problems. We're not talking about other just generic problems.
Right.
We're talking about problems to deal with investing or creating something for yourself.
Right.
Those problems.
Right.
Those problems pay dividends, not social problems.
And a person who is embracing problems and able to get out of those problems is a person who is it's the word I'm looking for, who's very, just had it in my head, solution orientated. And it goes to what we were talking about earlier, where being able to problem solve. There's a problem here. How do I solve it? And solve it in the best way possible. And a lot of people they're not good problem solvers. They don't improve at their life, their job, their relationships, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, and they don't improve. And they don't increase their ability to solve problems, especially things they've done all the time. All we do as people is have relationships. How do you not become better in relationships all the time? All we do in life is make money and pay bills from the time we're of age to work to the time we die. But you're not better with money, business, money, finance, BMF, my other channel. I mean, why are you not proficient at these things over time? And these are things we do all the time because you're not trying to be. I remember there are some young ladies, for example, who I remember seeing like on different social media platforms where they'll say like, I just want somebody to accept me the way I am. You know why? Because you don't want to self-improve. To say I just want somebody to accept me the way I am, meaning is kind of sort of meaning somebody should accept you the way you are to a certain extent, but that doesn't mean at the expense of not bettering yourself as a person. And for you to say that means you're not trying to better yourself as a person, right? Because if I'm bettering myself, I'll never say I just want somebody to accept me the way I am. If I'm bettering myself, I'm going to say, well, I'm definitely going to find somebody because I'm getting better, I'm getting smarter, and I'm becoming a increasingly greater person all the time. So, but individuals have to want that, whether it's in business, money, and finance, whether it's really just personal development in all shapes or form. And it's not fun. Business, money, finance is not fun.
Not fun.
Being a critic, being your number one critic of yourself, every time you do something wrong and say, dang, I need to improve that. That's not fun. It's not fun. Saying I don't know what I think I know, I'm not as smart as I think I am, is not fun.
Yeah. Constant audit on yourself.
Constant audit of yourself. It's not
all day long.
Fun. It's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
So people close their eyes to it. They close their eyes to it. And you'll never get there. You'll never get to Zen. You'll never become a monk. You'll never be a Zen, and I mean a monk, figuratively speaking, with the spiritual connection of being completely happy. That's what I mean. You'll never get there with that type of mentality, that type of attitude.
And you'll envy the ones, and you'll have jealousy of the ones that
don't get me started on that. Yes.
And put the work in and audit themselves.
Yeah.
And do all these things to become better at that craft, and then you'll just envy and hate them.
Yeah.
And just,
yep.
Well,
yep.
What do you do that I couldn't do? And it's like, listen, if I knew somebody has something I wanted, why would I not ask them or come to me directly and says, what do you do day in, day out? I never get these questions, by the way.
Yeah.
It's funny. People ask me certain things, but they never actually smart enough to ask me the question of, what do you do day to day and how did you do it? And do you mind if I can maybe shadow you on your next deal?
Yeah.
This is what I would call an intelligent, conscientious individual that knows that to get what somebody has, you have to do what they've done.
Yes.
or at least know what they've done and maybe formulate your own process.
Yes.
But the fact that no one's even trying to figure out my process tells me you really don't want it.
Yeah.
Or you're not smart enough to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Because even a person that don't know something, still a smart person doesn't have to know, but also smart enough to ask the right questions, because even asking questions is a form of intelligence.
Right.
So it's like you're not even asking any smart questions.
Yeah. Or even maybe you're not asking quality questions, but if you're not answering quality questions, you need to be asking questions in volume.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you're not asking the 1 or 2 or 3 quality questions to get you what you need, but then maybe you need to be asking 1,000 questions in.
Yeah, then something's got to be the
intention is still the same.
Right. Yeah, I always think about that, because I was like, yeah, so you don't really want it, because then it's like you're not. It's like you being a stock investor, and it is, and you just keep complaining like, I want to invest in stocks and this. Here you are, the one that owns it and it has a hedge fund, and you talk about it all the time, but yet they don't never want to ask about, hey, how can I just invest into your fund, or maybe can you show me how you started yours?
Yeah.
It's like they'll complain, but they won't actually go to the person that's in front of them, which is, you're lucky to even have somebody in front of you.
Yes.
Because that means these conversations would never happen if I never brought it up.
No.
We'll never talk about real estate if it wasn't for the fact that I owned it and then you knew I had it. And then now the light bulb is starting to go off, because you see the potential profit that I'm making. But that's because I'm successful in it. You might not get the same results. That's why they say all results are not guaranteed when it comes to stocks and real estate, because all investments is based on how good you are. So now in the job, you suck at your job, I'm good at my job, we both get paid the same.
Right.
Doesn't work in the investing world.
Right.
Results are not guaranteed like a starting salary. Your starting salary is guaranteed.
Right.
If you go to work right now, there's a minimum income, there's probably a max. We all get the minimum regardless of who's good or who's bad.
Yes.
It does not work in the real world when it comes to business, money,
and finance. In entrepreneurship. No. There
is no minimum guaranteed result.
No.
It's based on how competent you are.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I hate that. That's why I said when it comes to jobs, it's the best thing for incompetent people.
Yes.
Is to have jobs, because it allows them to basically make income without really actually having the value of that income in literal sense.
Yes.
There's probably a lot of people that are overpaid but don't think they are.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. They actually probably think they deserve that plus more.
Yeah. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Because if you were an entrepreneur, you'd be in the negative.
Yes.
You'd be in the negative. Talk to me when you can hire somebody. That's what I always say to people. Who do you employ?
Right.
So who has more value here? Well, I'm promoted, this. Yeah. Do you employ anybody?
Right. Exactly.
If you start talking about employing others, then you have created a value system. And now you're valuable. I'm sorry. A job in general is just not valuable. And I get it. People have to do jobs, and this is how society works. But just the job in itself is just not valuable. You employ and start creating jobs. That's a different story. You're on a different level when you can create jobs for others.
100%.
And I get it. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but don't talk about it and then don't be about it. That's my problem. I don't care. Stay in your lane. But there's people that do try to come into our investing lane, but then want to talk about it all the time, never do anything.
Yeah.
All fluff, all talk. Because it is, like you said, it's difficult.
Yeah. To
actually materialize what you learned and actually put it to work.
It's one of the hardest things you could do.
You know? And I love it because I don't, things that are easy is not fun to me. I'm actually love the hard parts.
Yes.
For me, it actually gives me it, because I like challenge. I like things that are challenging, and being, an entrepreneur and just, in real estate, as people out there that know real estate is very dynamic, and there's just a lot of things that can happen any given time, especially with this COVID going on with the eviction,
moratorium. Yeah.
I said like that's right there challenged many investors across the country. because you would have to really have had to have the fundamentals of having a reserve. You know what I'm saying? Having you talk about having a cash reserves and making sure that you put away money every month for capital expenditures and maintenance and vacancies. Well, you better hope that you wasn't spread too thin, because the COVID would have definitely showed you if you had good fundamental habits with your cash flow, because a lot of people were having people that were unable to pay their rent. And if you have a tenant that can't pay the rent for 2 or 3 months and you're basically filing bankruptcy, I mean, it says a lot about your ability to, how you handled your money.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that for me, it just showed me that me being able to deal what I dealt with for the several months and not being able to really, financially take a hit, definitely showed me that how well prepared I was for anything.
No, absolutely.
All that does is give me a lot of confidence in the future. And this was a good year to kind of stack up, see how really, how good you were.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
In your space. For anybody, stocks, real estate, or just in generic, just small business.
Yeah.
Business in general.
Yeah.
Everybody took form of a hit.
Yeah, because if you were skinny dipping this year, because when the tide recede, you were going to be exposed.
Right.
And they shouldn't be. A lot of industries shouldn't be bailed out. Some should, because unfairly the entertainment and restaurant industry had been treated completely unfairly during this time. But other industries should have been more covered and more prepared than none. Supposedly, New York City MTA, which was always hanging on by a string, I mean, they're crying right now for federal funding and some type of relief package that they're going for, because right now people using the MTA is at 25% of their normal capacity.
Wow.
Yeah, 25%. So I'm actually just glad I actually got out of there 3 years ago. I mean, that's a blessing right there. Because I don't know if I'd be able to tolerate that situation going on there, with the governance that's going on, poor governance that's going on with the governor and de Blasio. It's funny, I saw a survey done the other day. Who's the worst governor right now in America? And it was unanimously, like, there was 4 governors: the governor of California, I think the Atlanta governor, and the New York City governor, the New York governor, and then another governor. And it's like unanimously 60% of the vote was for Governor Cuomo as worst governor right now. And then the worst mayor right now, they had 4 terrible mayors right now going during this particular time period, and unanimously the worst mayor was de Blasio of New York City. So I mean,
come on, that should be a clue.
Yeah,
that's a clue.
That is a clue.
And who? Just a question: who, voting wise or results, is that based on? What is this a secondary like company or something that conducts this?
This was a survey. This was a survey done by a political commentator who has a following of millions of people. And they created a survey through their social media. And about 100 and almost 200,000 people voted on this survey. And it was unanimously Governor Cuomo as the worst governor this year, and Mayor de Blasio as... So it was an opinionated survey, but I think that might have a little bit more validity than some left than CNN doing their research and putting out, oh, based upon our research, this is, because they're just not they're extremely biased. They're extremely biased on what they find to be good and what not. In their eyes, they might see Cuomo as the best or de Blasio as the best.
Who, and for all we know, they might pay you to write a research paper for them on their behalf.
Yeah. If I lean towards what they want me to lean towards, yeah.
Yeah, that alone just conflict of interest. That the fact that does happen. Interesting. No, it says a lot. I mean, if you're a New Yorker, I mean, it says a lot. I mean, you're talking about your governor and your mayor. I mean, that's a 1-2 punch for the largest city in the country, and then one of the largest states. In general, in the top as far as population goes. They're being the worst. That says a lot. Because, New York City is usually known to be the best in a lot of things.
Well,
have the best departments, or on paper, we got the best this, we got the best departments, we got the best police department, we got the best fire department. And I always said to people, I was like, when it comes to departments, like we were saying earlier in the video, people are ordinary, people are average. So when you actually have a larger department, you actually have more idiots on your department.
Yeah.
People, that means you actually have more average people, more ordinary people. There's no way you think department's larger that it's also the better.
Yeah.
It's actually worse.
Yeah, the law averages.
Ordinary and more so ordinary people. All it tells me you have the largest idiot department or the largest people lazy.
Yeah. I mean, the law of averages. The law of average. If you have a very tight niche company that is extremely specific on who they hire, and they have a very stringent application and strategic application environment, then they would probably have a more competent workforce environment, personnel based company, opposed to a company that just has to fill spots. There's a lot of spots to be filled, and we have to fill spots.
Yeah, we know how that goes. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have a small, tight-knit company that might hire 15, 20 people and say, we only want the best. And that's it.
Period.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Just, and that's
there's a lot of, the fact that you got, what helps New York is you got a lot of prominent, famous people from there, and that does pump it up a lot. Because a lot of these smaller towns don't have the notoriety, don't have the actors.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot, and just the fact that it's just so large and there's so much other things, but the majority makeup of New York City is not those people, though. The people that we know, the famous people that come from there, all the entertainers, actors, athletes,
right,
and all that, and the business people, the Wall Street, all that is very, very, very highly successful people, but that's not the lion's share of everybody there.
Right.
That's just those small niche people.
No, absolutely.
Because there's definitely a place where I would not want to live. I would visit all day long.
Yeah.
I would never live there. Even though I'm from up north, I would never live there just because it's just, unless I was able to live like the one guy you said where he has his own elevator and I'm able to just go in and I'm just included from people.
Yeah.
I have my own elevator to the top floor. I have my own entrance, and I live in the top view.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a great place to visit, and if you are going to live there temporarily, not
right.
Permanent, lifelong place of staying. Not at all. Not at all. Well, that's gonna wrap up this episode of the AR Media podcast with Mr. Rembrandt and Raw Wilkes. Again, anyone listening to the podcast, you can listen on all major free podcast platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and etc. Also, if you want to get bonus episodes or exclusive episodes, ad-free episodes that are not available on the free podcast platform, you can go to patreon.com/AR Media Institute to get those episodes. And also, if you are watching this on youtube.com/AR Media Institute YouTube channel, watching this podcast, your video cast, make sure that you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you share this content on your social media platforms. Share it on your Facebook page, share it on your Twitter, or share this on your Instagram. So thanks for everybody tuning in, and see you on the next episode. That's a wrap.